What's up guys, Brian Kelly here from Zombie Guitar. So here in this video I just want to talk about why you may be having trouble in determining the key of certain songs sometimes. So I'm doing this video in response to an email. I'm going to read the email in a second. But the song in question is the song Wicked Games by Chris Isaak. The chord progression is just 3 chords the entire time. It starts with the B minor chord, then goes to an A major chord, then goes to an E major chord. All right, so it starts on a B minor chord, it ends on a B minor chord. Right there, that's an indication that this may be in the key of B minor, but we don't have all the information yet. So let's read this email, and then let's try and figure out where exactly the confusion starts to kick in, and why this happens, and then what we can do about it. All right, so the question says, I was trying to identify the key of this song from a first position pentatonic scale pattern. So what he's talking about here is he's doing the pentatonic test, which we're going to talk about here in this video, which can usually get you the key. Just the pentatonic box test alone can usually find you the key, but sometimes that may not be all of the information that is needed in order to determine with 100% certainty that that is definitely the key, which is the case that is going on here. All right, so from a first position pentatonic scale pattern, starting with the index finger on the note B on the low E string, and then the pinky on the note D on the low E string, the key seems to be B minor, which has the relative major of D major. So according to the pentatonic box test, this is the pentatonic box that seems to fit with the music the best. This one right here between fret 7 and 10. All right, so that lets you know that if that's the pentatonic box that works, out of the 12 possible options that you have, we're going to talk more about this in this video. Don't worry, I've also talked about the pentatonic box test in previous videos as well. But this lets you know that there's a good chance that the key of this song is either B minor or D major. It's a relative major minor pair, so as far as I'm concerned, that's the same key. So this pentatonic box test is saying, oh, okay, we have our key. It's the key of B minor, D major, cool, we got it. But then let's read on. All right, so it says the key seems to be B minor / D major, as the scale sounds right. However, the chords that go with this song, which he figured out by ear, are B minor to an A major to an E major, which implies the key of A major if you refer to the circle of fifths. If you look at the circle of fifths, if you look at the key of B minor / D major, you look at your grouping of 6, you'll see that the B minor, the A major, and the E major do not all fall into this grouping of 6. However, if you look at the key of A major, you'll see that all 3 of these chords do fall into the grouping of 6. So the circle of fifths is saying, hey, we're in the key of A major. But then this pentatonic box test is saying, hey, it seems like it's the key of B minor. The chord progression starts on a B minor chord and it ends on a B minor chord. What's up? Which one is it? So the reason for this confusion, and this comes up a lot, I get a lot of similar questions to this type of thing. The reason for this specific type of confusion is due to what I refer to as the fundamental misunderstanding in Western music theory. The fundamental misunderstanding in Western music theory is where a person does not know if they are following the 12 key model or the 24 key model. All right. If you subscribe to either one of those, that doesn't mean that you don't understand music theory. There's plenty of people that subscribe to the 24 key model and they know music theory like the back of their hand. The fundamental misunderstanding is a result of you not knowing which model you are following, because there are sources of information out there, such as myself, that teach from this 12 key model. That's the model of Western music theory that says, hey, there's 12 keys. We're going to teach everything from that starting point. And then there's another model. It says, hey, we're teaching from the perspective that there's 24 keys, also known as 30 keys. And it's a different model. And the two models kind of clash with each other. There's bottlenecks between the two models. So you really have to kind of know which one you're following, which one you're subscribing to. So under the 24 key model, also known as the 30 key model, and if you want to learn more about this particular model, which is not the model that I personally subscribe to or the one that I teach, but if you want to learn more about that, I made a video on it. It's called the 30 key model explained. So under that model, you have major keys and minor keys. That's it. Those are the only 2 possible options. So when you look at this chord progression, B minor, A major, E major, that's your chord progression. It can only be a major key or a minor key. So this person asking this question is like, is it the key of B minor? All right, maybe that's an answer. But then the circle of fifths is saying A major. It doesn't seem like A major. The key of B minor, it's not all fitting into the grouping of 6 on the circle of fifths. So what exactly is it, you know? Under the 24 key model, you only have those two options. You have major or minor keys. That's it. Under the 12 key model, on the other hand, you have more options for what this could potentially be. Under the 12 key model, you only have 12 parent major keys, but then for each of the 12 parent major keys, you have 7 possible perspectives, otherwise known as 7 possible modes. So this chord progression could potentially be an Ionian mode chord progression. It could potentially be a Dorian mode chord progression, a Phrygian mode chord progression, a Lydian chord progression, Mixolydian, Aeolian, or Locrian. Under the 24 key model, you only have major keys and minor keys, and then modes are something different. And, you know, there's a whole bunch of different ways that people go about trying to describe them. They're like, oh, modes are this, modes are that, modes are that. But all we know is modes are not keys. We just know that. That's the 24 key model way of thinking. It's very confusing in my opinion. But then you have the 12 key model, and it's like, oh, okay, we have our parent major key. Cool, got the parent major key. Which one of the chords of the 7 chords of the key that you have determined this chord progression to be in, which one of the 7 chords is acting as the tonal center? Once you know that, then you know the perspective. So this person, they refer to the circle of fifths, and they determine that all 3 of these chords fit right into the grouping of 6 in the key of A major. So the circle of fifths is telling them that their parent major key is the key of A major. That's the key. Okay, so let's look at the chords for the key of A major. So you have your 7 chords of the key of A major. Now, if the A major chord was acting as the tonal center, if that's the one that feels like home, if that's the one that you're labeling as your 1 chord, then it would be an Ionian perspective of this key, or an Ionian chord progression. If the 2nd chord was acting as your tonal center, which in the key of A minor, the 2 chord is a B minor chord, if the 2 chord of the key is acting as the tonal center, then it's a Dorian chord progression. 3 chord acts as the tonal center, it's a Phrygian chord progression. 4 chord is Lydian, 5 chord Mixolydian, 6 Aeolian, 7 Locrian. So according to this 12 key model way of viewing things, all of the chords fit under the parent key of A major, and the 2nd chord is acting as the tonal center, which lets us know, oh, this is the Dorian perspective of the key. Okay, so the key is the key of B Dorian. Now, you don't hear that term used a lot. You don't hear someone refer to a song or chord progression as being in the key of B Dorian. But under the 12 key model, Dorian is just as much of a potential key as is Ionian, or as is Aeolian. Under the 12 key model, what you typically think of as a major key is just an Ionian chord progression. What you typically think of as a minor key is just an Aeolian chord progression, or the 6th perspective of a key, or the 6th mode of that particular key. Ionian is one possible perspective, Aeolian is another possible perspective, Dorian's a possible perspective, Phrygian is a possible perspective, Lydian, Mixolydian, they're all possible perspectives of the parent major key, for which there are 12 of them. So you can go onto Google and you can actually type in, "What is the key of Wicked Game" by Chris Isaak. And some of the websites that come up are going to tell you that this is the key of B Dorian. So this isn't just me saying this stuff. Other sources of information are also saying the same thing. So when you do come across a website that calls this the key of B Dorian, essentially saying that Dorian is a perfectly legitimate key option, just as much as Ionian or just as much as Aeolian, it could be the key of B Dorian. When you come across a source of information that says that, that's letting you know that they're operating under this 12 key model, the model that I teach, the model that I subscribe to. All right, so let's now address this whole pentatonic test thing. Why did they come up with the pentatonic box that falls in between frets 7 and 10? And why was that the best sounding pentatonic box for this particular chord progression? Yet the answer was not B minor, D major as the correct key. What's up with that? So just as a review, what is the pentatonic box test? That is where you try pentatonic position number 1 in every single position between open and fret 11. So here's your pentatonic position number 1 box. It could be that one, could be this one, could be this one. You keep trying pentatonic boxes, pentatonic position number 1 boxes, all the way up the fretboard until you get to fret 11, Once you get to fret 12, it's the same thing as down here. It's just an octave higher. So one of the pentatonic boxes between open and starting on fret 11 is going to be the one that fits best with the music. So this person did this pentatonic box test, and they found the one that falls in between fret 7 and fret 10 to be the best sounding one. Let's take a listen to what that sounds like. Alright, so according to this pentatonic box test, fret 7 and fret 10, that pentatonic box seems to fit really, really well. That's the one I would have picked out of all of the possible options. That's the one I would have picked as well. But why is it not the key of B minor / D major then? Index fingers on the B, pinky fingers on the note D. Why is it not B minor, D major? And the reason for that is because the pentatonic scale is just 5 of the 7 total notes of the diatonic scale. Now, the diatonic scale goes under a bunch of different names. The diatonic scale is also known as the major scale. It's also known as the natural minor scale. It's also known as just the key scale. It's also known as the Ionian scale, or the Dorian scale, or the Phrygian scale, or Lydian scale, Mixolydian scale, Aeolian scale, Locrian scale. It has like 10 different names, all right? So the diatonic scale has a whole bunch of different names. The pentatonic scale is 5 of the 7 total notes of the diatonic scale. So right now, this B minor pentatonic scale, or D major pentatonic scale, whatever you want to call it, is 5 of the 7 total notes of a diatonic scale. Which diatonic scale is that? We're not 100% sure yet. So the B minor pentatonic scale is 5 of the 7 total notes of the B Aeolian scale, otherwise known as the B natural minor scale. Under the 24 key model, this is typically just referred to as a minor key. The B minor pentatonic scale is also 5 of the 7 total notes of the B Dorian scale. The B minor pentatonic scale is also 5 of the 7 total notes of the B Phrygian scale. So right there, that lets you know, okay, this could potentially be B Aeolian, it could potentially be B Dorian, it could potentially be B Phrygian. In a lot of Western music, usually it's Aeolian, and you just say, yeah, that's a minor key, cool, got it. But it's not always the case. Sometimes it could be Dorian, sometimes it could be Phrygian. The same is also true for the major pentatonic scale. The major pentatonic scale, again, is just 5 of the 7 total notes of a diatonic scale. So let's say that you're not calling this B minor pentatonic anymore. It's not B minor pentatonic, it's D major pentatonic. Alright, so that's your D major pentatonic scale. Again, it's just 5 of the 7 total notes of a diatonic scale. So the D major pentatonic scale is potentially 5 of the 7 total notes of the D Ionian scale, otherwise known as the D major scale. Or it's 5 of the 7 total notes of the D Lydian scale. Or it's 5 of the 7 total notes of the D Mixolydian scale. The pentatonic scale is not the full picture. The 7-note key scale, the 7-note diatonic scale, is the full picture. So when you do this pentatonic box test to try and figure out the key of a song, such as what we're doing here, A lot of times it's going to give you the correct answer right away without any other information needed. A lot of times it's going to say, oh, you figured out that the correct pentatonic box is, the B minor pentatonic or the D major pentatonic. Okay, cool. It's B minor, D major. Got my key, no problem. A lot of times. And that's because a lot of songs are written using Ionian chord progressions or Aeolian chord progressions, aka major keys and minor keys according to the 24 key model. But that's not always going to be the case 100% of the time. Sometimes music is written in Mixolydian. AC/DC writes in Mixolydian a lot. Sometimes stuff is written in Dorian, Carlos Santana writes in Dorian, This is an example of a song that's in Dorian. Under the 24 key model, your only two options are minor keys, major keys. There's nothing else for which it could possibly be. But then when you dive a little bit deeper and you start thinking in terms of this 12 key model perspective, B Dorian turned out to be the answer, So, I don't know. I like the 12 key model. It's what I subscribe to. It's what I've been teaching since day one. Join the dark side, my friend. Come to the 12 key model. Thank you for watching. See you later.